So good evening, everyone. Thank you for attending this webinar. My name is Rachel Garth. I am a business analyst living and working in Avenel, Oxfordshire. I'm here today to give you an introduction of this talk, Logosophy, knowledge that expands life. We have prepared a series of activities this week to present to you what Logosophy is, how we study it, and what are the benefits of practicing and applying this wonderful science to our lives. This is also a very special occasion. On Tuesday, the 11th of August, Logosophy will complete 90 years of existence. It was created in 1930 by the thinker and humanist González Pecote. Logosophy is a new way of feeling and conceiving life. It is also the science of affection, and its names, it's the combination of the Greek words logos and sophia, which the author has adopted as a meaning of word of wisdom. Logosophy is exceptionally practical, and each individual must apply its knowledge to their own life and biological consequence to any of the daily activities. The logosophical study is very broad, covering all aspects of human life and its psychological, moral, and spiritual dimensions. Some of the logosophical purposes are man's conscious evolution, the knowledge of one's self and of the universal laws, the integration of one's spirit, the knowledge of the mental, transcendental, metaphysical world, and the creation of a new life and a better destiny. These goals are achieved through a process that the author has called the process of conscious evolution. To achieve such a transcendental initiative, he created a method of study that allows all of us, without distinction, to carry out this process. This method consists of practicing what we study and studying what we have experienced, repeating until you reach levels of greater awareness of your internal and external realities. We have long ignored our internal world, and therefore it implies goodwill and patient effort on our part to do that. The studies are carried out individually through the conscious activations of the functions of thinking, understanding, reflecting, reasoning, remembering, observing, and etc. And collectively, attending study centers now in many parts of the world, as you can see in this map. There are also primary and secondary schools in Argentina, Uruguay, and Brazil, who apply the logosophical pedagogy in combination with the regular studies. And ultimately, it's an optional subject of study in the last year of the University of Economy in Argentina. The Logosophical Foundation offers free information courses. And if you're interested, you can email us at info@logosophy.org.uk when we finish this talk. We also invite you to access the website logosophy.org.uk, where you can find more information and download our free books. When the presentation is finished, an evaluation form are going to be sent to you and arrive to your inbox, and your inputs will be very helpful for us. Let's hear now from other students. Over to you, Nicole. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rachel. Good evening. My name is Nicole, and I have been studying Logosophy for almost 2 years. During this time, I have been discovering some amazing things about myself and about my surroundings. And one thing that I have learned was that my life is a huge experimental field where I have many opportunities to enjoy. But the first time I heard about it, I asked myself, what is an experimental field? It could be like a lab. So I started to pay attention to the things that were happening in my life. And using my observation, I could realize that every moment I'm facing adversities and living experience. And it's my responsibility to enjoy this experience and take some learnings from it. Remember that I said that I have used my observation? Yes, that's it. I have been learning how to observe. And one more time, I asked myself, what is the difference from the observation that I'm used to doing? Looking to the external or something that someone did that I disapprove? Studying my experience with the Logosophical cognition, I was invited to remember and to pay attention to my reaction in some of them, to look for the cause of my acts and how I could do it better or how I could extract a teaching. And one experience that I studied it was last year when I decided to start to study cooking and I got a job in a kitchen. So it was the first time working in that environment. So I faced some difficulties as I needed to learn new words and also to develop my abilities in that field. And one day I was struggling to learn a new recipe and I was feeling very anxious and worrying many days about it. And with this experience, I did an observation of what was in my mind. And I remember like a voice in my head saying that I wasn't capable of learning a new skill and that I was wasting time. I realized that I was listening to this voice and not paying attention, that I only needed to be calm, follow the recipe, and if I needed, I could ask for someone with more knowledge to help me. And what was that voice in my head? In Logosophy, I got in contact with a very special concept, the concept of thoughts. And I was able to remember the thoughts that I had at that moment. And what is this concept of thoughts? Logosophy presents thoughts as psychological entities generated in a human mind, where they develop and even acquire a life of their own. So I realized that in that situation, my thoughts were acting by themselves, and I was acting without my own will. And I could see how they influenced my conduct and my feelings. I have been learning how I can use my thoughts for my good and how they influence the construction of my future. Because every moment I'm building my future, and it's not as far away as I used to think. Every day I'm learning more about how I can improve to build the future that I want. And beginning with myself, and mainly knowing my thoughts, I will start to have elements to help others to achieve the same objective. And there is a special extract from a book written by the author of Logosophy that made me reflect about the influence of the thoughts in my daily life. It says, according to the thought that governs the individual's mind at the moment he acts, so will his conduct portray it. Where is the human being, man or woman who can demonstrate that he is master of himself and has nothing to blame himself for as a result of what the thoughts have made of his mind. To achieve such capability is a task that requires a lot of practice, a strong will, and much faith in one's own forces. Now I would like to invite Hector to share his experience. Thank you.
Thanks, Nicole. My name is Hector, and I have been living here in Bournemouth for the last year and a half, and for the last 13 years, I have been studying Logosophy. Something that I learned by studying this new science is that depending on the thoughts and concepts present in my mind, my whole worldview changes. This is something that, when spoken out loud, seems kind of obvious and simple, but most times I notice that most of us are not aware of this. Logosophy teaches you many new concepts, and this helps you change the way that you live your own life. One such concept is that time, contrary to popular belief, is not money, but life. Time is life. When I realized that by wasting time, I was wasting my own life, I started to change some things, some aspects of how I lived my daily life. I saw that in some moments, I live in my life in kind of an automatic mode, on an auto mode where I just went through the motions of everyday life. And by doing that, I was missing thousands of opportunities to observe my surroundings, to learn from my experience and from others. After all, when you fall into a routine, you think that all the days are the same and then nothing new or interesting can happen. When I realized this, I saw that I needed to change because if time was life, I had to use my time to good use. So I started to make some small changes and I made an effort to be more conscious. Instead of just putting my headphones while going to work, I made an effort to observe what was happening on my path. Small things I never noticed before started to popping into existence. More than once, I had the opportunity to help others or to get to know new places while I was doing things in this new way, in this more conscious way. At work itself, I started making an effort not just to improve the way I did things, but to also listening and help my colleagues. And this allowed me to forge new friendships. Given time, its rightful due, allowed me to live many other different experiences because now I was living in the moment and that allowed me to make different choices, conscious choices. I thought about what I was doing, what I was saying and planning to do, the reasons and thoughts behind these actions. My life was no longer disconnected moments and events, but a whole. The days that seemed to repeat themselves started to disappear, and all days became an adventure where I had the opportunity to improve myself, to help others, and to learn a lot from each experience that happens during a day. Now we will listen a bit to Sheila.
Sorry, just a moment. I think Sheila connection is not working well, so we're going to share the video. Just
Good evening. My name is Sheila Pearl.
just a minute.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Sheila Pearl. I live in London and started to study Logosophy many years ago in Brazil. Logosophy presents some new and different concepts, and I would like to share with you one of the first ones I learned and applied in my life, the concept of mental defenses. The Logosophical concept of mental defense says, when man learns to know his thoughts, he locates them in his mind and selects the best ones to be utilized. And when he knows that he can create his own thoughts instead of making use of someone else's and exercise his faculty of thinking, then he has come in possession of the key that will give him full control over his mental field and establish his mental defenses. When I first got in touch with this concept, I asked myself, why do I need to create a mental defense? What do I have to defend myself from? What are these mental defenses? Well, as I continued studying and applying the Logosophical teachings in my life, little by little I was able to answer these questions. To give you an example, I'm going to present the Logosophical concept of observation. Nicole has mentioned a little bit about it, and I would like to share with you an experience I lived with it. The most important difference between observing as Logosophy presents and the current concept that we all know is that we start learning to observe our inner self. We start looking to our inside world and not only to the outside one that surrounds us. So, as we do this, we start finding what we have in our mind and heart. That is, thoughts as well as ideas, values, deficiencies, sentiments, virtues, prejudice, etc. And as a consequence of knowing what we have in our mind and heart, we will be able to make conscious observations about us and about the others, as it should be done. We may ask ourselves, why do I have to make a conscious observation about myself and about other people? The observation I already make is not enough? Is it not consciously made? Generally, when we observe someone else, we tend to make a negative criticism. And why is that? The reason is that when we don't observe ourselves, we don't see our own mistakes, we only see the mistakes of others and tend to judge them not positively. So, the new concept of conscious observation allowed me to see a reality about myself that I ignored before, and it became a mental defense every time the old habit of looking just outside to criticize negatively came to my mind. Besides, it teaches as well to observe to find out if I don't do or behave the same way. The conscious observation requests that I connect what I'm observing to my own life, my own experience lived in the present or in the past. I would like to share with you an experience I lived recently regard to the observation as a mental defense. I had to spend a long time in a relative's home due to the coronavirus. In this period, I tried to help in many ways, doing whatever work needed to be done in the house. After some months, one day I was washing the dishes, and a thought came to my mind suggesting that my effort to help was not being considered or recognized, and I felt sorry for myself. Poor me. Because I have learned to observe my inner self, I immediately recognized that a negative criticism and sentimentality was beginning to manifest in my mind. To cancel it, I started making questions to myself and answered them. I asked myself, what is the reason for you to help? Do you like helping them? And the answer were very clear. I like helping them because if I do some work the adults of the house will have more time to do their jobs and will not feel the pressure of doing other work as well. Because I do it with the most pure sentiment and intention. Because I am in their home and I feel important to do things, as they don't have a person to help with all the housework. Because I was grateful to them for the fact that in their home I was more protected from the virus problem than I would be in my own home. These reflections made me to put out of my mind the thought that was beginning to take over it. But continuing to reflect, I realized that even if that was the case, it would not be a problem. I have to keep doing what my feeling tells me to do and will continue helping because the help is done as a sincere expression of my heart. What could have happened if I was not attentive and observing my inner self? I would probably start having some reactions, and an atmosphere of resentment could be created, spoiling the nice relation I have with them. This is just an example of the new concept of conscious observations acting as a mental defense that we experience every day. So, the logosophical concept and teachings are in itself the mental defense I need to use against the elements I have inside of my mind and need to protect myself from the ones that come from other people's mind. I would like to invite Natalia to talk to you now.
Hi, good evening, everyone. We've heard Sheila through a video because of internet connection. My name is Natalia. I'm a medical doctor in the UK, and I've been learning in Logosophy that adaptation is a power. Before, I used to complain a lot, resist to change, and criticize the element that demanded a change. For example, during uni, I got a clerkship in Canada, and I used to compare the previous clerkships with the new one, which was very good, but didn't have some facilities that the previous ones did, like a single room, people I already knew, closer to the residence where I lived. So I complained and pointed out to me the bad aspects of this new professional clerkship. And every morning I'd wake up without motivation. I couldn't see the positive points and the great opportunity that I had conquered for myself. Despite that new place being very good and significantly better than others that I had before. And I realized that I was going there feeling tired and with thoughts that were undermining my mind against the new location. I was frustrated and I was going through a struggle I did not need to live, in addition to the necessary day-to-day struggle. Today, my work is completely different. I'm in the UK and looking for what I understand to be the best for me. Studying logosophy, I can understand that changes are needed in my behavior to adapt to the new way of life without criticizing and having thoughts of complaint and stress. It was not easy to make that change, and we all go through changes and deal with them positively or not, but the changes are common to everyone. So then I would ask, if we need to live a new reality, what is the use of complaining? What effect has on my energies to complain about something I have to invariably live? I'll go through. So I've been learning in Logosophy that adaptation is a universal law that applies everywhere to everyone. And I will read an extract from the author. The law of adaptation is so inflexible that does not recognize halfway measures between one situation and another. One changes or does not change. As such, if an event occurred that imposes a change, the fact of remaining in the same position or condition as before would be equivalent to living outside of reality and therefore enduring intense suffering. This is what always happens when man resists a change, and this generates everywhere pain, miseries, and anguish, and makes suffering a quasi-permanent visitors of the human heart. So after I had contact with this text, I decided to try to live the changes in a way that they would fit in my life. Instead of being so resistant to them, instead of always suffering because of them. So gradually, I began to feel a greater power over my life. And that power generated happiness. I didn't have to suffer every time I had to deal with something new, with something unexpected, or something that would significantly change the way I live. I learned with this that life can be heavy, a burden, or it can be light, if I know how to generate this lightness through the use of knowledge that helps me to live better. With this and other logosophical knowledge, it's possible to generate a more transcendent meaning to life. Thank you.
Thank you, Natalie. So I always had a huge interest to know more about things and to understand the deep meaning of the words and concepts. And one of the concepts that Logosophy invites us to review is exactly the concept of life. What's life for you? And has your concept of life changed through time? Before, I used to think that life was simply a sequence of predetermined events with little choice left for us. So we are born, we go to school, find a job. Some of us, like myself, will decide to make a family, we get old and die, and that's it, right? I understand now that these are all external things. They are obviously very important. But what about our internal world, which I mentioned in the beginning? Do you remember? So I have found out with Logosophy that I said all of us have a whole other world inside of ourselves. And I have learned not only I can live in this world, my own world, but Logosophy also teaches me how to create my own life and be the author of my own story. I have reached a point in my life that I didn't want to make the same mistakes again and again and again. And I have lived many situations where I had to face difficulties, like everyone else. But with this new concept of life presented by Logosophy, I have started to deal with my problems in a very different way. Around 6 years ago, I moved from the Netherlands to the UK. My husband has been invited to work here, and although we're very excited, happy, we didn't have much time, money, and information to plan our move. So we did a little research and we found a flat in a sort of a hotel in a small town where we would stay for a while, for a few months. So we got our belongings, we packed everything, put the furniture in a van, and drove ourselves to the UK. However, when we arrived at the place, the person that was in touch with us had left the company and they couldn't find our booking, neither had a place for us. Well, there you go with a long list of problems to solve in a short period of time. First, my husband would start to work in a few days. Second, I had to come back to the Netherlands to return the van. And third, to fly to Brazil to get a document. Fourth, we had to quickly find somewhere to sleep in that night itself. And fifth, where to put our stuff, including my precious plants. And in the middle of all of that, if we didn't have enough, I look at my husband and say, I think my passport has fell from my bag, as if we didn't have enough, really. And what do you think that has happened after this lovely surprise? Oh yes, we're very upset, angry, tired, but remembering a thought from Logosophy that says, life must not be placed inside our problems, but rather problems should be placed inside our life. So we decided to stay calm, and we managed to find my passport after driving for a while. And as we didn't waste our time in fruitful arguments and discussions, we had enough energy to focus on also finding the solution for all the problems that we had. Moreover, in the following days, we started to study our experience, already reflecting on what we have done wrong in a positive way, to extract a teaching that would help us in our life, to expand our life, not to short it because of a difficult situation we had to pass through. And it was just one in many that we had to pass through. So I hope you have also extracted teaching by listening from our experience, and you can apply them to our own life. So many thanks again for being here with us. And if you have any questions, or if you'd like to get in touch, please write to us again on info@logosophy.org.uk. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you all for being here.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Nobody sees me, but I'm here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you all. Bye-bye.